So let's go Brandon Johnson, mayor of Chicago. He's got a $1 billion plus budget deficit, operating city budget deficit. He is going to use progressive revenue to fill the budget gap. What does that look like? Let's get into it. Here we go.
Mayor Brandon Johnson says he's not going to hike property taxes in his 2025 budget proposal. Victor joins us live with the latest on the mayor's apparent shift in strategy. Emmy.
Well, Micah, just days after a city official told Bloomberg News a property tax increase was likely in 2026, the mayor now says he'll commit to a budget without one. Mayor Brandon Johnson addressed
Good luck with that,
media Friday
Brandon.
for the first time since announcing he won't propose a property tax increase next year for Chicago homeowners.
I'm not going to propose a property tax increase in my budget proposal.
Johnson spoke about his decision Friday on the WGN Morning News. He says he's looking for other sources of progressive revenue to address the city's $1.2 billion budget deficit.
We're going to work to build the safest, most affordable big city in America. We're going to create a budget that reflects our values, and we're not going to balance that budget off the backs of working people.
What a bunch of sound bites. Because how are you going to do that? What are you going to do? You're taxing the rich and you're giving it to the poor. How is that going to work out? Well, the rich are going to leave. The individuals are going to leave. The corporations are going to leave. Then what are you left with? A whole bunch of poor people dependent upon the tax revenue from the elite, the rich, and it won't be there anymore. It's just like the grocery stores leaving town. All of a sudden, there's no more grocery stores left. Yeah, no place for people to buy food. It's not that uncommon. You've got people fleeing California. You got people fleeing New York City. You got people fleeing Chicago because they're being taxed out of their minds. The rich just don't pay their fair share in taxes. If you actually look at how much the rich pay, just the absolute amount that they pay, it is way more than anybody at the low end of the socioeconomic scale. Way more. Way more. But because you've got these progressive policies that require a lot of money to run them, a lot of programs to run them, and you need money to run the programs, you got to tax everybody. And let's go, Brandon. He's just going to tax the rich even more. That's what's progressive. Let's keep going.
Hours later, the mayor shared similar remarks at an event in the 49th Ward.
So we're going to find and work with City Council to come up with progressive revenue ideas. I have a number of them, and we're going to receive those collective proposals.
Last year, Johnson proposed a $300 million property tax.
Remember that?
He'd have to break a promise he made during his campaign in order to prevent drastic cuts to city services and jobs. The proposal was rejected by the city council, which later approved a smaller tax increase for homeowners.
Remember, they approved it like 55-0, 52-0, something like that. It was just so overwhelming. It was like, poof, that was a shenanigan played out in real time, right? It was like, what a numbnut. And he comes up with these ideas and he's like, no more taxes. Oh, what about a $300 million tax? Just going to throw that out on there for you. Now he's saying no more taxes, but he keeps saying progressive revenue. So then what that means is literally taxing the rich. So we're not doing any more tax. We're not doing any more tax increases. Oh, no, it's because it's not tax increases. It's progressive revenue. That's what we're doing.
Owners. Where all the money would come from for Johnson to keep the city running in 2026 remains uncertain. Property taxes are among the city's largest sources of revenue.
Yeah.
Mayor Johnson did not rule out asking Governor J.B. Pritzker for help.
Our teams are constantly working together to come up with solutions. And it's not just the state of Illinois, working with our county board president, working with our congressional delegation.
Johnson also hinted at a tax.
And that's because they've got so many social welfare programs that require so much in the way of resources that they're having to do that. If they had a balanced budget, if they kind of understood profit and loss, if they weren't just shoveling money to ridiculous things like making sure that their local law enforcement doesn't interfere with ICE, ridiculous things like that, harebrained things like that. And then, folks, you in the city of Chicago, you wouldn't have taxes like you do, which to me are shocking. The amount of money people pay for property taxes in Chicago, based on assessed value, you're like, they're paying how much for what? And what do they get for that? Broken down roads, lack of access to yada, yada, and yada? Oh, doesn't sound like a deal to me. And it's not. But you gotta keep taxing people to pay for all this stuff. And people are fleeing Chicago, New York City, LA, to other places where they're not taxing you, like Idaho, Florida, Texas, Ohio, Oklahoma.
Tax on the area's wealthiest people and corporations to help fill the gap.
We're going to look at everything, but the most important thing that we have to focus in on is that we have the ultra rich in the city, in the state that have not put enough skin in the game. And when we look at budget deficits,
numbnuts, they're the ones carrying the game. They're the ones carrying the game. Now, you've been hammered on because your community said 100%, unequivocally, we're not doing the $300 million tax increase that you promised us when you ran for office you wouldn't do. And now, numbnuts is going after the rich. Oh, it's one of those self-proclaiming policies that, again, just pull out that. Let's go with a Derringer. You got a Derringer pistol and just a single shot right to your foot. Just do that. Just instead of all this nonsense talk, just shoot yourself right in the foot and then just agonize in your pain. Because that's what the long-term output's going to be when more individuals and more corporations leave because they have options. They don't have to stay in Chicago.
Across this country, we're seeing a stronger call for the wealthy to actually pay their fair share.
Yes, in socialist, communist communities, you're hearing that. You're hearing that. And you know how that's working? Great for Republican-led cities, counties, and states. Not so great for Big Blue. Big Blue cities, counties, and states are losing population. That's why you've got redistricting is such a hot topic right now. Texas is going to redistrict and come up with an additional 5 seats. California is freaking out. What are we going to do? Yeah, because you're losing your power base on a daily basis. And it's because of policies like these that push the ones who make the most and who pay the most in taxes. It pushes them away.
The mayor also spoke with WGN about Chicago Public Schools and its budget shortfall. He says he hopes the city and state can work together to ensure school services like counselors and social workers aren't hindered because of the economic challenges CPS is facing. Back to you.
And with the federal government pulling funding for a lot of the shenanigan programs that are out there, yeah, all right, we got to go after progressive revenue. Mayor Brandon Johnson says he will continue to seek progressive revenue solutions to address a $1 billion budget deficit without raising property taxes. Now, when I read that and I see that, I immediately just think, shenanigan. That's what that is. It's you're saying one thing and you're doing another, and neither one is really going to work out all that well. It's literally self-defeating policy. That's what so much of my podcast is about. It's easier to sell homes in areas that have good policies, that have public safety as a high priority, that have minimal criminal activity, that don't have graffiti, that have grocery stores, that have CVS's because people aren't robbing them blind. Weird that it's easier to sell real estate in those conditions. Who would have thought? Who would have thought? In an interview with ABC 7 Friday morning, Johnson said, I'm going to put forward a budget that reflects the values of working people. Okay, commie, go for it. All right, Democratic Socialists of America, go for it. We'll see how that works out. Have you heard of Cuba? Cuba. Maybe look it up. Maybe Soviet Union. Yeah, how'd that work out for that whole deal? I mean, I'm just asking for a friend. You can pick any communist and just go, well, people of communism say, well, if they just had long enough to keep going, they would have got there. And you're like, how was it in the meantime? Not good. Progressive revenue is what we are going to fight for. So it's literally just going to tax the absolute F out of the upper class. Okay? And the upper class has the ability, unlike the lower class, to move. And they're going to take their stuff. They're going to take their property, just like Jeff Bezos and Lauren Sanchez leaving Seattle. They left Hunts Point and they said, adios, $63 million, we'll take it. We move into Florida. Because City of Seattle and Washington State basically said, we're going to tax the F out of you to support all of these other ridiculous programs that the left is just so committed to because it's virtue signaling. But it doesn't operate within the confines of business, which is you have low income environments, businesses are going to move there. You have high income environments, they're going to go somewhere else where they have the option of paying less in taxes. And that's what they're doing. What I can say is that there are too many loopholes in this city that allow for the ultra rich and corporations to get away with having to pay their fair share in taxes. Really? Okay. Well, I'm sure you're going to take a run at this and we'll just see how it goes. Do you think your revenue is going to go, up accordingly? Or do you think there's a high probability that it drops precipitously because all those people are going to leave, you knucklehead? Not that hard to figure out. We're going to make sure that we make these necessary investments to build more affordable homes. If I have to hear the affordable home comment one more time, I don't know what I'm going to do. These people are hopeless. They are such knuckleheads that, hey, you've constricted the ability to build homes. You've taxed the heck out of real estate. Why would anybody want to build within your community? There's no incentive. Oh yeah, come and build in here because we're going to tax you guys up the yin-yang and you're going to like it. You're going to say, sir, may I have another? And that's literally what people in Chicago are doing. Sir, may I have another? It just keeps on going, right? Now we're addressing community safety. All right. So investing in mental and behavioral health care services. Yep. Affordable housing and addressing community safety. All right. Okay. All right. How are you going to do that without a whole bunch more money? You're already bleeding out with what you got right now. You can't possibly make investments in affordable housing, mental and behavioral healthcare services, and community safety. You have zero chance of covering that. Zero, given your current condition. And if you push out even more businesses that bring in your top tax dollars, guess what? That ain't going in the right direction. Johnson said closing the budget gap is not just about revenue. ABC political analyst Laura Washington talks about the mayor's interview. It's also about how government can be more productive. And I'm going to look into means in which we can modernize our budget system so we can save taxpayer dollars. So what you're saying is that you've got a wildly inefficient system on top of some just whacked out budgetary constraints? Is that what you're saying? And it is. Let's go, Brandon Johnson. I think he's got a checklist of, virtue signaling Democrat words. Oh, we got affordable housing. I'll work that one in there. Progressive revenue. I'll work that one in there. All right. We got mental and behavioral healthcare services. Oh yeah, we know that because we got a bunch of people, Looney Tunes, running around. And then we got community safety. It's important to have community safety, even though we don't have any. Yeah, but let's talk about it anyway. Let's pretend. Let's just pretend. Johnson said furloughs and layoffs are not on the table. So no new taxes. No property taxes, you're not firing anybody, and you're coming up with progressive revenue. I'm curious. Tell me, what does this look like? Because the minute you enact going down this road, you gotta increase taxes. You have to increase property taxes because that is such a major component of feeding the socialism, feeding the communism that you're heading down as a progressive. You got to feed that somehow. How are you going to feed that if you don't tax the F out of all your constituents? Because you're not covering things now. What do you got? $1.28 billion deficit, $1.3 billion deficit, and you're somehow going to magically make it work with progressive revenue? It's as if there's a progressive revenue tree in the backyard in Chicago. Hey, somebody water the tree today? Somebody put some fertilizer on it? That's what I spent all weekend doing, fertilizing my squash and my pumpkins and good stuff. But there's no such thing as a progressive revenue tree. It's people, it's corporations, it's businesses, it's business entities, and they have to make a profit They have to want to stay in town for you to capitalize on their income stream, their taxation income stream. It's investment in the community. It's investment in buildings. It's investment in real estate. And when you do the progressive revenue, boop, they're out because they're mobile. Like Jeff Bezos. I mean, he doesn't, can you imagine moving if you're Jeff Bezos? Yeah, could you guys take that? I mean, that guy just has the amount of means. He doesn't lift a thing. He doesn't even lift a chair, right? When he moves, he just flies off with, his wife, I guess now we call her, and they get in his Learjet and they fly to Florida and let's go golfing before noon, right? Start in Washington in the morning and they're there and all their stuff gets there. You know what? They just say, we don't need that stuff. I'm former owner of Amazon. I'll get it from Amazon. They get all their stuff from not Amazon. You get what I'm saying though? They have the option and they have the ability and they have the means. The very people that you're talking about, let's go Brandon Johnson, taxing, they've got the means to say, Chicago's no longer that really wise of an option. And we're seeing it repeatedly. We're seeing it in California. We're seeing it in Oregon. We're seeing it in Washington State, my home state. Businesses leaving because they see the writing on the wall. All of this nonsense that you got to have the money for, that money's got to come from taxes somewhere. And guess what? It ain't the existing people not working. Socialism works for those who don't. Yeah. That's what I'm going to leave you with today. So also sell that as a coffee cup. Yep. All right. Thanks so much for being here. I'd love to have you subscribe, hit the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one. Bye for now.